Well, there you go. Something's missing. Two somethings are missing. And the only thing holding them in place was the two exhaust bolts and a couple of hard plastic lines, which one of them I shattered into a million pieces. So we'll deal with that when it's time to put it all back together, but that will help. I think that'll help a lot, because the plan is when it's time to drop the head back on, I'm going to drop the intake and exhaust bolted to it already, all in one big piece, because I want all these bolts on this side tied in properly. Well, not on the engine, but on the head. I don't want anything loose because I couldn't reach that funky back one, you know, etc. Okay, so that's what's done right this minute. A little bit of bad news, but not the worst in the world. It's cracked through here and cracked across there. It's like wherever the weld meets the tube. This one too. And they're both at least halfway around. The other ones are fine. There's not a crack on them. They're good to go. So maybe it was suggested that if the motor mount on this side of the engine is not fairly snug, this stuff gets a lot of flexing, gets a lot of stress on it. So I'll have to look at that. I think they're probably not in great shape, because they're, as far as I know, they're original. There's the intake. We'll clean the ports here. At least I put tape over the throttle body to try and keep it clean. But got to test the EGR and stuff. That thing on this 88 is really expensive. Okay, I don't know. Does that look like it's got a big chunk missing? See my finger on the other side? Well, let's see. I don't know Jeeps that well. So, if this thing's spinning, if the fan is spinning counterclockwise as I face it, then the engine would tend to tilt up over here and down over here, but I don't know if that's correct. So anyway, I just know that there's a whole bunch of material missing on that, the top of that motor mount. So it might be toasted. It might be time for a new one. Even if it is on the non-torque side, it might be a good idea. So anyway, the radiator hose is all swollen and soft, and the power steering's leaking pretty good. So while this is all open, this is the best time to work on it. I did kind of a mild clean on the head. Came up with a good idea. You take your air nozzle, everybody knows about that, and while you blow into it, you take the vacuum and you stuff it clear over the top of it, so it doesn't blow, you know, fine metal particles all over your cylinders and your crankshaft journal. So I did that on all these bolts. It took a while. This is the one that goes down the water jacket. It was rust free, it was fine, but the third one that we've talked about in previous videos, it took a whole bunch of cleaning. Here's what we have. This is a junkyard bolt. Took an angle grinder, about a 3.5, 4-inch angle grinder. Didn't do a perfect job, but grinding actually cuts these threads a lot cleaner. And as I screwed them in, I used my small 3/8 impact. I screwed them in slow. It would push a bunch of rust and crap up these grooves right all over me. So I was like, wow. So anyway, cleaned them all. Cleaned all the holes in the head and used one of the long bolts I got from the junkyard. They cost me 50 cents a piece. These soaked in vinegar, as all the head bolts did, and then in baking soda and water to neutralize the vinegar, and then blew them off and coated them with WD-40. And look how clean those damn threads are. And this has been through, you know, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14 head bolt holes. So anyway, it's nice and clean, and that way stuff doesn't get transferred and, you know, shit like that. Anyway, I like it a lot. So this is a good thread chasing tool. Make your own. Somebody could probably take a bunch of these out of the junkyard and sell them for 10 bucks a piece because they're that useful. Anyway, so the cylinder head surface, I went over and I scraped it with a razor blade and used WD-40 and Chinese Scotch-Brite and cleaned it up where I could. The razor blade was first because there was a bunch of debris, especially in this section by the lifter gallery. Now, something I did spot, I don't even know if I can film it. Let's pick this first lifter and zoom in, see if we can get it, if we're lucky. Yeah, if we're really lucky. Come on, focus, baby, come on. There, you see it? See that piece of carbon crap right in the middle of the lifter? Yeah, so when you're doing this, you got to make sure you check everything and make sure it's clean. This lifter and the one next to it both have a chunk of carbon on them. That won't be hard to get. I'll put a little piece of tubing of some kind in my vacuum and just suck it off of there, but you don't want to stick your push rod against that. No. Are these push rods hollow on these 4 liters? Well, if they are, you doubly, triply don't want to stick a push rod in some carbon like that. So I'll go and vacuum all those out at another time, but I wanted to show you some of the things you look for under a bright light. Okay, let's back this out a little bit. So the cylinder's looking pretty good. It's still got what I believe to be original honing marks in it. They're dusty a little bit, which is not good, but that's alright. They'll get wiped out. You see them? No, can't see them. Anyway, they're all got good honing marks in them from the factory. Everything's pretty clean. It needs to be done just a little bit more, but it's pretty much done. And then I'm going to cover all this with some saran wrap or something to keep all the dust out of it till we get it together. So there's where we sit with the 88. The 86 is a 4-cylinder, so it's a lot easier to tell than a 6, right? This is really long. Anyway, so what else do we need to talk about here? Everything's sitting over there on the table. These guys have all been cleaned in. Where's our carburetor cleaner? It's hiding. Anyway, it's they're all soaked and clean. There's still some little bit of carbon on the head surface of the piston, and I'm not really terribly worried about that. But WD is your friend, man. I thought this was going to take a lot less long than it has, and I live in an area where there's only 20-25% humidity, and stuff still rusts. So guess what? Coat your stuff in WD, man. Save your butt later on. Anyway, that was that. The head's sitting over here waiting for work. I wanted to get the bottom end of the motor done first. Get the rods in it and all that, and rods and piston assemblies. I have somewhere sitting here a brand new box of connecting rods. Connecting rod bearings, sorry. Here we go. These are tri-metal. Good stuff. Some of you have done the aluminum thing, right on. I'm sticking with what I know works. Got some plastic aids so I can check the clearances once a new bearing gets put on, or maybe before I put them on. I'll use it on the old rod bearings. Those are standard size. All my rods, thank God, are standard size. This is all my tools, all my crap. A couple of parts from the junkyard, but I showed you guys that already. Ring compressor. Anyway, one of the big pains in the butt is going to be the oil pan gasket down there. That thing, I don't know what they made it out of, but it's going to take forever to scrape it off, so I bought a bunch of tools to do that with. Although, as usual, my little single edge razor blade holder has done me well for, I can't even begin to tell you how long I've had this thing. It's got to be 25 or 30 years. Anyway, it's doing pretty good. The old, the head with the new, oh, it's not laying here. With the new thermostat housing, it had a leak. There's a tiny bit of antifreeze right here, and it wasn't leaking from here, it was leaking from above. So I didn't use any sealer on the gasket. Figured everything was new and flat and smooth, and it leaked a tiny bit. So we've got to not forget to do that. Anyway, this is looking pretty good. The only thing I don't like is, if you can see that rod journal, it's dusty. You see that? That's what happens when you don't cover your cylinder head or cover your block the second you pull the head off. That's what happens. So now I got to take every journal and I got to wipe it sterile clean of dust, or it'll scratch the living hell out of these new bearings. So anyway, I'm really glad I got this off. I saw Nick and Time do his, and it seemed pretty easy. Once the two nuts came off, you should probably wet them with penetrating oil of some kind, and then the studs are pressed into the manifold. So all you have to do is spin the nut from the underside of the vehicle. I used electric, cordless impact, and reached up there, and they just spun right off pretty good. I'll make sure I put some penetrating oil on them when they go back together. Maybe even anti-seize would be better, right? So anyway, that's our update for tonight. Almost shocking, but we've had the most insanely good weather here in the desert. It hits 60 degrees almost every single day. Hits about freezing every single night. But when you're not freezing to death here in your garage, it really helps get the work done. So anyway, made great progress, which is not easy for me to do. Oh, the other thing I just got, thank you Amazon, that is going to be our vacuum system leak detector. You guys have seen guys use this on YouTube a lot. It's a 700 watt smoke machine. I got to make an adapter to tie to the front of this piece, and then a long hose. And we're going to make sure that all of that crap is very, very leak free. It doesn't help to try and tune a motor when you have all these mysterious vacuum leaks. And yes, I know all about using different penetrants and sprays and shit, but I've been doing this a long time, and I'm going to tell you right now that this smoke machine is going to be 10 times more efficient at finding the tiniest of leaks. So that's what I'm going to try. I don't think it was on sale on Amazon, but with shipping, it got here, it's like $40, and I think it's worth it in spades, because we got 2 Jeeps to work on. So anyway, the guy, a neighbor said he would, I don't know if he's going to help me, or if I'm going to end up doing all the welding. I haven't welded in 30 years. Well, I welded for a couple hours in 2009. So we'll see how my skills are after all this time. But if we can fix this, I will be very happy. Plus we'll probably put on a motor mount. Maybe that'll slow this down a little bit. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, that's it for tonight. Good night. See you, bye.